Hi, my name is Lauren. I'm a production secretary, mainly in Factual TV. You can tell I'm in production because I love a PowerPoint. I made that joke last time, and then my PowerPoint was broken. So I fixed that this time. You live, you learn, you make more PowerPoints. This is a few of the shows that I've worked on for the past few years. It's quite a varied, yeah, lots of weird shows, lots of shows you probably have never heard of, but that's fine. I got my first job in September 2021. I was still in uni, which was a bit mad. So I was working part-time. I was doing 4 days a week for my job, and one day at uni. We're still doing full-time at uni. I wouldn't recommend that because it's very full on. But I was lucky enough to work with Line TV for about 2 years, just over, and over about 7 different shows. They just kept on popping me onto the next show, and the next, and the next. And then a few years later, they ran out of shows. Last year was the first time I was doing daily work. A good thing to know about TV in general is that it's split in like 2 worlds. You have scripted or drama, which is all your big TV shows like Outlander or River City, anything like that, anything that's scripted. And then you have unscripted or factual on the other side, which could be game shows, reality TV shows, documentaries. It's a very wide umbrella. They both work slightly differently. Basically, there's less money involved, or there's less money behind the programs in factual TV, so it's usually smaller teams. So you have different responsibilities, even though you're at similar level. Your position also doesn't fully link up with both sections. So I'm a production secretary in factual TV, but I'm at production runner level in drama. It just works out that way. It's bigger teams, there's different responsibilities. So I got to do a lot of work on drama last year, which was quite fun. Lots of massive teams, long days, and I also had a cool opportunity to work on a McAngus/Cirque du Soleil show for, they had like an anniversary, so they put on this like very swanky, I think they called it was like an experience. It wasn't a show, it was an experience, but it was 200 quid per ticket, so still really cool. Last year I did a documentary, that was a feature documentary, that was the most latest thing I've worked on, and coming up at the end of this month I'm going on to location, which is really annoying to say, but it's been running for ages, so that should be really fun. As I said before, your responsibilities are quite different depending on your job role. So when I'm doing production runner work in drama, as I said before, you're in a bigger team. You're kind of, as the name kind of explains, you're running around a lot. I've never done so many steps on any other job than as a runner. You're doing source of material, so if the production team needs anything at all, if that's arranging a cheese board, which I've done on more than one project, it's a great skill to have. You organise lunches a lot, you've got your big henchman, execs, directors who are busy people, so you need to just make sure that they're looked after. And also you get to sometimes choose where you're going for lunch, which is the biggest responsibility. There's lots of meetings involved. You have script read-throughs, which don't magically get organised. There's usually a production runner and some stressed-out production secretaries trying to set up iPads in a certain way that you can see all the people in the room. So there's definitely some very silly Zoom footage out there, climbing over tables to try and rearrange stuff. Again, you're looking after execs. I got pulled onto Blood of My Blood, which is the Icelander prequel, because they had an Esther coming over from Los Angeles. So I was picking him up in the morning, taking him into the studio. He was off in the little edit suite. I would appear just before lunchtime, being like, "Hi, how you doing? Do you want lunch?" Go away, get his lunch, come back, here you go. I also had the cool thing of helping organise the wrap party, which is something I've never done before. Got to go to the wrap party, which was the most important thing. We had an ice sculpture, which was really cool. I can see from your enthused faces. I was really excited about it, okay? I've got way too many pictures of this ice sculpture. The main responsibility you have is collecting rushes. If you don't know what rushes are, it's all the footage that's filmed. It costs a lot of money, even though it's usually in a tiny little case. And every day, sometimes more than once in the day, you have to drive to the location, pick it up, and come straight back. So I had one of my full days was I drove from the studio to the location, which was an hour and a half away, in 5 other places. And then dropped off stuff, picked up some other stuff, came back to the studio, dropped off some other bits and pieces. I think I sat for a little bit, went back for rushes, and came back and dropped them off to the post-production. So it doesn't seem that big of a task, but it's really important for workflow. And it's also all the footage, so it costs like millions of pounds worth. So it is a big responsibility. Compared to being a production secretary, it's a little less running around, especially if you're office-based. Usually you're mainly office-based. It's nicer hours. It's usually like a 9:30 to 6, Monday to Friday. You get to have a social life. What is that? I'm going to find out what that is. And it's a lot more paperwork involved. So call sheets, there's a running joke that no one reads their call sheets. And there's usually a really irritated production secretary or production coordinator behind those emails going, "Read the bloody call sheet, it's got all the information you could ever need." They're very useful, and sometimes they're absolutely massive. I think the biggest call sheet I've ever made was 26 pages, which was painful. And guess what? No one read it. So you still make it. It's good to have the knowledge there, and it means if someone goes, "So where am I parking?" you can go, "Page 1, top half, on-street parking," whatever. Other important thing is risk assessments. Insurance-wise, you always need to have them. Most of the time at project level, you don't really need to update them. You just need to make sure they get signed and read by the right people. Unless it's a high volume show, so Homes Under the Hammer, it's big turnover. You're doing like minimum 5 shoots a week, sometimes more. So you end up having to update that yourself. Because a lot of the time, if it's first looks, they're going into houses that are like falling apart, they're maybe mold, you never know. So you want to make sure that the crew, and most importantly, the clients are looked after and no one gets injured. Again, shoot logistics, so everything that goes on to the unread call sheet has to be organized. So travel, accommodation, and most importantly, filming permissions. They are the bane of production's life. There's nothing worse than you finish your to-do list, you're thinking, wow, we've started everything for this shoot, and your director turns around and goes, "Hey, so see the shoot that's happening in like 5 days? Yeah, see when I said no to filming in Tobermory? Yeah, we're actually filming in Tobermory, which is fun. So the project, sometimes a researcher, but usually it's production that gets left to it. You have to phone around, usually a film office, and find out who you need permission for. Beaches are the worst for filming permission. It sounds silly, but somehow thousands of pounds to film on beaches. They're very tricky. Another comparison to from drama into factual is that usually you're working through production and into post-production. In drama, it's usually a different team that will do post-production. So it's quite cool, you get to work with the edit team. A lot of the time it's because you have working knowledge of the show already. And anything that's on the screen needs to get cleared, which in an ideal world, and if there's lots of money, usually you have an archive researcher or an archive producer. A lot of the time, it's usually left to production, which is a good skill to have, but it's also a little tricky. Sometimes you have conversations with your producers like, no, we don't need 8 pictures. We don't need 8 pictures of Harry Styles, we only need 4. Because they're £45 each, we only have £2,000 for archive for the whole series. You can deal with 4 pictures of Harry Styles. You can choose the pictures, but we're only having 4. Again, music clearance, another joyous part. It's one of my favourite things to do. Because normally your producers and your edit producers are all a bit older and you go, you're young and hip, you choose some music. Then you look at your Spotify playlist and think, well, okay, sure, whatever. All I'm telling you is that there's a lot of instrumental Bring Me the Horizons on BBC Music Box, so if that's ever available to use, I'm your guy. And that's also why there's way too much Basie Peters in a kids show that I worked on. Somehow it was really easy to clear, and I was like, that's a really good song. And yeah, a few episodes later, you have to go easy on the Basie Peters, please. Again, similar responsibilities, you have to source materials, book kit. Most of the companies I work with don't have internal kits, which normally you have to call up a kit house and be like, here's what camera people have asked for. Can you tell me how much this costs? Is it possible to go lower? Maybe. Even though you are office-based, you do get to go on location some of the time. I've been on location quite a lot. It's one of my favorite things. I love running around and you get to see how it all comes together. In the moment, you do have very strange experiences. Not to repeat about Harry Styles, but he's the bane of my life. Not the specific person, but having to clear pictures of Harry Styles. And having these terrifying mannequins of Harry Styles that look fine. They look fine, but imagine you're in the dark having to do a walk around of a studio and there's these creepy little mannequins in the corner. It was great, it was great. Even got a cameo in the background of one of the episodes. It's fine, I signed a release form, so it's all good. Yeah, so I was in AirTV, surprise! I joined in 2018. I was a member for the first year and then was in committee for 2 years. 1 year as head of events and then head of events and vice president. Made a lot of short films, wrote, directed, edited, did a little bit of camera in the first year. And did a few challenges, took part in APAs, and just worked on other friends' projects as well. Here's some fabulous photos from my time there. That's in Cultural Car Park. That was for a 40-hour challenge, so committed to a bit. The funny story is that there was an old lady walking past us, and she asked me, the person that was on the floor, if I was okay, because there was like 4 or 5 people like filming it. I was like, yeah, everything's okay. I would say through AirTV, you do learn a lot. Some of this is going to sound a little cringy, but it's true. I find that the more I planned for shoots, the less stressed I was. I was still a little stressed out, because there's never enough time, especially when you're student filmmaking. But it does help, and it also helps that that's what my job is. So it all works out in the end. You've got access to kit, so much better kit nowadays, thank you. These cameras are great. And getting like hands-on experience with them. Because filmmaking is such a practical skill, the best thing to do is just have a go at it, faff around. The only way you're going to learn is doing it. You can also figure out your strengths. Do you enjoy doing camera? Or are you awful at doing sound, like me? Never want to do sound ever again. Had to re-record an interview for dissertation because I messed up the sound, but it was okay. Still passed, yeah. You get to take part in all these opportunities, especially with APFAs. There's nothing better than showing your film, and you're nervous. You're just like, nobody's going to like this, but everyone does because it's a lovely community. I'm getting to know fellow film nerds. I got to know quite a few people at AirTV. A lot of them I'm still in contact with. We don't really make stuff anymore, but we're still film nerds. There's nothing like bitching about films that's coming out and going, oh, that was rubbish, wasn't it? Just like wave out the film degree down again. Sorry, this was supposed to stop the babbling, but okay. Some tips. Some of these are a bit of a repeat, but being proactive. So finding out the different things that you that are available, if that's work experience, if that's film festivals, if it's especially youth film festivals, there'll be a lot of good workshops included in that. You'll get to meet a lot of people. When I was in first year of AirTV, there was a film festival called, I can't remember what it was called. It's not around anymore, but they had a different workshops. It was fully free, and there was a workshop by the team that were making Anna and the Apocalypse. Banging film, by the way, go watch it. It's Scottish based, and it's a zombie musical set at Christmas time. Yeah. And then a few years later did work experience with them, which was great. Hone your skills. If that's just making films yourself, check out Screen Skills. They have a lot of free training. They also have a lot of like breaking down different roles in TV. So you don't particularly know what you want to do, and you're fed up with people going like, what do you want to do when you grow up and you're a filmmaker? And you don't have an exact job role. Have a little look at that. It breaks down a lot of the different roles. So if you're like, I have no idea what a third assistant director does, have a little look at that. Facebook groups, for such a big industry, is quite strange that one of the main ways to advertise jobs is through Facebook groups, but that's just how it is. The main one I would say to look at is people in TV runners, especially if you're doing like introduction, entry level work. It's a really good one to be a part of. Not to repeat about Hammer again, but their main thing when they're looking for runners is that they're early into the TV industry, because you don't need to know a lot about TV to help out on a really small shoot. And they're always looking for people. Ask questions. Again, sorry for repeating, but it's a good one. You're not going to learn if you don't ask. I was really lucky. I got my first job as a production secretary, and I knew some stuff, but majority of it I did not know. So for quite a few months, I was like, I have no idea what an offline or an online edit is. I don't know what any of that means. Some of it you do learn as you go, but just ask the question. There's no such thing as a stupid question. I know it feels like something that your mum says, and you go like, "There's no such thing as a stupid question," but there isn't. It's better to ask it, get the answer, confirm that you are on the right path, and just gain some knowledge. Make use of the resources. So having access to good kit and great people that are open to make stuff with you is also great. With your fellow filmmakers. GMAC is a good one to look out. They do a monthly film screening called Cafe Flicker. It's fantastic. You get to show your film, you do a little Q&A, you get asked questions, you feel like a proper little director. It's really fun, and it's a really lovely team that works there as well. These are some other good things to look at. Talent manager, it's like filmy LinkedIn. That's the best way to describe it. They advertise those jobs there, and the best thing is people can look you up. Because I've had a few times that someone's emailed me, and I'm like, where the hell did you get my email? It was through Talent Manager. Another one that's quite similar is Film Bang. It's only based in Scotland. You can, if you're a newbie filmmaker person, you only need to pay £10 for a year. You do a little profile, and again, people can search you up. And you also get given a little book, which I didn't know. I got it in the post. I took it along with me if you want to have a little nosy at that later. Because it just arrives and you're like, there's my name! And finally, back to not sound like a union person, but knowing what you're worth is good to know. Especially being an introduction early in your career. Unpaid work is good, and it's good to learn on smaller film projects with fellow filmmakers. But if you're working as a runner on a production that has funding behind it, especially if it's going to be shown on a channel, make sure you get paid. If you don't know what rates you should be asking or expecting, have a look on back to. Some of it for factual TV is a little unrealistic when you get a bit up, but it's a good benchmark to look at, because as someone who definitely got underpaid a few times, it's better to ask for more and then to go, the most we have in the budget is this, than to like undermine yourself, which is something that you kind of learn as you go. But yeah, because usually they have a certain amount in your budget, and they'll try and not get you to go over that, but that's fine. Other than that, have fun. I know it's quite a turn, but having fun with what you're doing, especially a job like TV, it's very stressful. There's moments where you're kind of like super duper stressed out, but as a production coordinator said to me, you're not a doctor, no one is going to die if the courier does not get sent today. And sometimes you have to just realize that you're working in a very silly industry and you're making TV. Same goes when you're making little short films. It can be really stressy out, but if you're not enjoying it, try and figure out if there's something that you can change, or maybe you don't enjoy that certain role, and that's okay. Amazing.